The year was 1989. The place was Al's basement. Our gaming group was extremely inspired by TSR's release of PHBR1, the Complete Fighter's Handbook, and PHBR2, the Complete Thief's Handbook, for the second edition of Dungeons & Dragons. Al decided to run a campaign in his beloved Greyhawk that would exclusively include characters using modified variations of the standard fighter and thief classes called kits. Soon, we were all pouring through the rule books, creating characters using new kits like the Cut Purse and the Gladiator. One member of our group fell in love with the Samurai kit, and since he had already had a preference for disciplined warriors with the Code of Honor, he enthusiastically rolled up a samurai. To add a tweak to a somber archetype, he decided to make his samurai a halfling, and thus the noble warrior Tai Ni was born. This player was extremely excited about playing his new character until the first game. The honorable halfling had been thrust into a group of thugs, cheats, and robbers. He was the lone noble hero in a sea of total miscreants, and he was quickly drowning in these scummy waters. Not a single encounter passed by without the hapless Tiny witnessing his companions commit flagrant and usually enthusiastic violations of his warrior's code. Worst of all, he couldn't even get through a single honorable duel without one of these cowards sneaking up and stabbing his opponents in the back. Tiny's player was at a crossroads. While he loved his halfling samurai, he could not handle game after game of frustration at the hands of his knucklehead friends, who not only blocked the fullest realization of his character, but reveled in such anger. And so it was at the end of this first game of what would later be known as our legendary Fighter Thief campaign. The halfling Tiny grabbed his katana and took a stance that countless samurai before him had taken in the face of hopelessness, and announced, "I fall on my sword." Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Dungeons and Decisions, a Displaced Beast production, now with 100% more character death. On this show, a group of guys who have been playing role-playing games together for over 30 years talk about various aspects of 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons to help you, the viewer/listener, make the decisions that will lead you and your gaming companions to maximum fun. We have a very special episode today, but first, let's do some introductions.
So hi, everyone. I'm Al Barris, the Forever DM.
Hi, I'm Chad, and welcome to Chad and Conundrums and Company. Hope you enjoy our podcast.
I'm Mike Matoney, and that's all that needs to be said.
And I'm Mark Russell, and I think this might be the first episode in which I've actually introduced myself.
Way to go, Mark.
So, I can podcast. First of all, for those of you who are concerned about the fate of Tiny, I can tell you that the noble halfling did have a second life in another game, which we may tell that story later. But for today's episode, we are going to depart from our usual format from the first two episodes and try something different. So today's episode, inspired by Mike Matoney, is about knowing yourself as a player and about knowing the people that you play with. And so we're going to take turns asking questions about play styles, and each of us will answer those questions with a sign indicating which of the four of us is the best match. So whoever's name comes up will then have to explain what attracts them to that style, and inevitably, of course, they'll have commentary from the rest of us. So we are going to get started with the first question. Al, do you want to start us off?
I certainly will, Mark.
Thanks, Al.
I play characters who tend to put themselves first.
Who am I?
Mike!
All right, so we have all, for those of you listening to the audio podcast, we have all put forward our mic flags on this one. So, Mike, why is it that your characters are so self-focused, shall we say?
My sad and twisted personality. I don't know. It's fun to explore the boundaries of how far you can go in self-interest while still trying to kind of toe the line for party unity. And I won't say that I didn't cross the line on a few occasions. I can see Al, for those of us on the podcast, Al is chuckling madly because a few is probably a few too few.
Is he on our side? Is he on the enemy side? Who knows? He's on his side.
Yeah, everybody needs a raceland in their group.
Yeah.
And it just happens to be usually played by Mike.
Be fair, the Ultimate Warrior is not like
Well,
that.
yes,
That's true.
now that there's playing against type, so he might come up in the conversation here. So I won't say too much about that right now.
All right, should we move on to the next question, Chad?
Sure, I get the next one. My characters are usually the best at what they do. Who am I?
Chad!
Yay!
And by the way, we haven't actually formally actually agreed on anything. So what you're getting is the true spontaneous response. So we're not colluding here.
Yeah, I do like kind of rule mongering and optimizing my characters. But there's a secret reason that I haven't told anybody why I play the characters who are best at what they do. For those who are familiar with like Guardians of the Flame or the 80s cartoon of Dungeons and Dragons, they became their character trapped in another world. And I don't want to take the risk that if I become my character, I'm going to be some subpar guy. So, you know.
Like, I'm not moving into a dud, right? Like,
I don't want to be the acrobat, Chad.
No.
yeah, that was probably the worst one. Oh, my
And there wasn't even an
expense.
acrobat class. I mean, where the hell did they come up with that?
There was an acrobat later.
Yeah, there was.
Well, later, but not in
Yeah,
first
yeah.
edition.
Same with Cavalier. I think they came out with that later too. And now both of them, of course, are gone.
Though those were all in Unearthed Arcana.
Yeah, and the Cavalier is a 5th edition fighter subclass.
Oh, is he? Okay.
Yeah. Not great. It's definitely not the winner of that group.
All right.
All right. Well, that's a fantastic explanation, Chad. Mike, do you want to go with our next question?
Sure. Most of my characters are kind of crazy. Who am I?
Al.
All right, so I like crazy characters because I'm not a terribly good actor, and like Kenneth Branagh yells everything, I decided a long time ago that lack of subtlety was going to be my friend when role-playing, and the easiest way of doing that is to adopt some form of strange mania and to go with it. We'll talk more about this later.
I think crazy is a fantastic role playing choice because it just gives you an infinity of options, right? No one knows what your character is going to do next, and neither do you.
It also always gives you an excuse for making a mistake.
Right.
Chaotic
Well, my
neutral. I
character's
meant to
crazy.
do that.
He didn't really mean to push the other guy off the cliff. He just
Crazy.
There's a love pack.
Well, I guess it's my turn. So my question is, I like to fill a support role. Who am I?
Mark.
All right.
Oh, we got a tie.
Interesting. Tie.
Yeah, it's both Mark and Al are being indicated here.
Yep.
So Al, why don't you go first?
All right, so I will frequently play clerics, just because I like clerics. And if I'm in a situation to play a fighter, I'll probably play a paladin, which is the most supporty of the fighter types. I don't know. I like the helping other people be awesome thing.
Yeah, I like it too. I think for I guess because I enjoy the utility that's involved with the support role. Like I really like um, being able to do a lot of different things that are kind of helpful and you know a lot of my initial characters were multi-class characters, right? They were like, especially like I played a lot of like thief mages, but now I'm definitely like leaning towards what I think is like the ultimate kind of support combination, which is the thief and the cleric, which I like to call the holy ninja. That's my sweet spot right now. Those are the kind of characters that I love to play because they can do so many kinds of different things and all of them kind of helpful and you know, benefiting the rest of the group.
Yeah, so conversely, I'm not helpful, except in the sense that I want to be in the middle for everyone else to soak up damage. I love to do damage, I just don't like to take it.
Doing damage is its own role. So a lot of my characters are inspired by fantasy fiction or popular culture. Who am I?
Mike.
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 Yeah, that's probably because I go and think about a lot of books and popular culture, read a lot of fantasy novels. Some of them are things that the guys know. Some of them are drawn from obscure crap that I found at half price books. So for example, the aforementioned Ultimate Warrior, based on the World Wrestling Federation character at the time, probably one of the only examples of the truly altruistic, because I always saw him in the good guy role, you know, of course, before he turned bad, but we'll just forget about that. And so I, you know, it usually the characters started off with that as kind of like a basic archetype, and then of course they grew from there. But maybe because I'm just not that clever, I just always find myself gravitating towards what I already know. So
I don't know. I mean, I think there's something cool about kind of finding a way to interpret that character in, you know, in the D&D format, you know, bringing that character, you know, within the rules of the game. I think there's a certain amount of creativity there. So I wouldn't knock
I
yourself,
certainly
Mike.
took the Count Von Count in directions that Sesame Street never expected.
All right.
Are you up?
Yep. My characters tend to solve problems. Who am I?
Mark.
All right, we all have Mark.
Yeah, this is my favorite part of the game. I mean, I think of the three kind of classic kind of aspects of Dungeons and Dragons, right? Combat, role playing, and exploration. I find myself very heavily in the exploration area. Like that's the part of the game that I love. I love like solving puzzles, finding creative ways to use magic. I rarely play a character that doesn't have magic in some way or another, right? It's just like that's what I really, really dig about the game. I you know, killing monsters, getting treasure, all that's okay. But when when you really come up with a creative solution for a stumper, then I feel really satisfied, you know, after that. So yeah, that's I think pretty much every character that I've ever had is a problem solver in some way or another, or every now and then I guess they're a problem creator. But
You are Magic Mark.
and which brings us to our next question.
Let's see.
Mike.
My characters usually are the problem. Who am I? Oh, interesting.
Oh, 50-50.
Equally
Right.
split. Equally split.
Well,
So
Chad,
Chad and
I'll-
I both went with Chad.
Yeah.
And Mark and Mike both went with Mike. So
Well, I'll go first. Mostly, I'm like, you know, it's one of those questions where if you don't know who the answer is, it's probably you. So, maybe it's me. I know sometimes I Leroy Jenkins things, so you know, Mark's takes too long to solve a problem. I just kind of go in and try and solve it. But other than that, I think I'm fine. Mike?
Well, my problem making is more in not in terms of the action. It's more the pre-action or what provokes the action, because I'm going off and doing my own thing out of my own self-interest. I'm a team player until I don't get enough profit, and then I need more. So whether it's dashing off on my own or I don't know, being the second incarnation of an evil god or something. I've always got my own self-interest kind of floating in the background, and so it creates interesting role-playing opportunities that the whole family can share.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I would say most of your stuff is mostly role playing. I mean, doing the role playing is what causes problems.
Yeah, I mean, except for the occasional backstab. I don't think it's
Or the not so occasional.
or not healing people or stuff.
Right.
It generally is not detrimental in combat, but
Well, so I think that's fantastic. I mean, like for both of you, I think that there's a certain amount of antagonism and drama that you can expect from your dungeon master, from the obstacles and the enemies that the dungeon master throws at you. But equally great is kind of the relationships between characters and the drama that's created between them, and that is role-playing gold. I mean, once again, it helps drive the game.
Well, I think it even goes beyond. It's more of the metagame. I mean, because we've all been playing with each other for so many years that we don't want to do the same old. It half of, I think, what we do is how can I impress the group, either positively or negatively. The modern D&D has the inspiration point concept, which Al can maybe opine on a little bit more later, but it does give you an incentive to be, truly creative, both in the game context as well as just from the social context as well.
Okay, on to the next question. My characters tend to view morality as highly relative. Who am I?
Oh,
Okay, so we've
got a lot.
Yeah, everybody except me, basically.
Yeah,
Al,
yeah.
Mike, and Chad have all been indicated here. So I guess who wants to go first?
I'll go first. I think it just goes back to what, the theme of making it interesting, being selfish, but at the same time, it's a weird kind of morality, where personal dignity plays a large role. So, and if that goes in favor of the party, great. And if that goes against the party, well, sucks to be you. But it is very tied with the concept of the character, and really thinking about what would this character do in this circumstance, and regardless of how it kind of affects the party, and seeing what the fallout is, and reveling in the enjoyment of the role-playing aspects of that.
I don't know who put my name in. I guess it all depends on how we define morality. And we've only got so many minutes in this podcast.
Let me explain my relativism with some relativism.
Maybe you can look it up on the internet for me. I don't know. I'm chaos neutral, so I think I'm good.
Yeah, I think
That's such a Chad answer.
yes. I end up in being a little bit more inspired by crazy characters. Again, morality tends to be secondary to that.
Yeah, I feel like creatively you dwell in that gray area, Al. You're definitely like that's a creative sphere that attracts you a lot.
Mm.
Not that Al himself is morally ambiguous, but
Oh no.
Kind of borderline anti-hero, fallen hero, forgetful hero.
A hero, nonetheless.
Well, by default. So First and foremost, I pick characters who are fun to roleplay. Who am I?
Mark, you can't just put multiple answers every time.
I think it's okay.
He can put multiple answers up if he wants. We didn't agree on rules.
Are you the kid who's pressed all the buttons on the speak and spell, Mark?
Maybe.
Normality there, Mark.
All right, so I think that there's no point in playing a character that you cannot have fun playing. I think if you take anything away from any of these episodes that we're doing, if there's just one thing that you take home from these middle-aged nerds, play a character that's fun to play. And don't worry about what anyone else thinks. Don't worry about, filling a particular role. Don't worry about, being a, doing the most damage per second. I mean, play a character that you love to play, because that just makes the game better for everyone. And a lot of the things that Mike has been saying tonight about the types of characters he plays, even when his character is trying to kill us, we love it because it's so much fun to watch him get into it. And it's the same. I tend to play characters that are a little goofy and silly and irascible, and I try to come up with kind of various novelties for my character and so forth. And for me, I get a lot of entertainment out of doing that. But even better, I really try to make it so that it's entertaining for everyone else. And you can't do any better than that in this game. I mean, even if it leads to, say, I don't know, the death of your character, at least you went out with a bang.
Yes.
I guess I always look at it as the villain is always more fun to play sometimes. But it's not the deep, dark, evil villain so much as the bumbling villain who has the twirled mustache and it's all, as Mark said, it's all in good fun. And again, trying to get a laugh out of the rest of the party. You almost can't wait to see what crazy hijinks those rascally kids will get into next time. So I have always put my own amusement perhaps even above party unity. So that's what keeps me coming back for more.
All right, next question. I ruin the DM's plans the most frequently. Who am I? Oh, I put Mark.
You're just being a spoiler, Chad.
Well, I guess I read it as like Mark would probably try and problem solve it rather than maybe do it.
Yeah.
So I'm thanked that you guys think I'm such a good problem solver by putting my name on there.
Yeah, that's totally it, Chad. We think you're great at solving
You're a
problems.
good problem solver by being a good min-maxer and rushing up and beating the problem to death.
I think
I
that's
just
Shooting
like-
the problem to death.
I would just like to say that Chad is the first one of us to discover the sharpshooter feat in 5e. The first one to basically, find the maximum damage path with his character.
my defense got bored with it because he always kept hitting everything.
I don't think anyone has ever declared, Chad, you roll bad.
I was gonna say it's not necessarily. I mean, rolling obviously optimizing the rollings, but it's picking the feats and the skills that all tie together to, carry the rest of the team when they're role playing.
I was just about to say that actually I always know that Chad's going to be able to make up for whatever deficiencies I introduce into the party. So in a sense, it's a good thing.
I let you guys be you.
Yeah, it's funny how your other character is a monk who has like 1,000,000 stunning strikes. See, that doesn't derail anyone's plans at all.
Not at all.
I didn't realize the monk was quite as powerful as it was until I started playing it.
Would you believe there's still people on Reddit who complain about how underpowered the monk is? I
Yeah,
don't
those
even
people have
understand
never
it.
had their
I do
their
not
awesome
understand.
monster stunned for 3 rounds and unable to do anything and unable to use all his cool magic powers.
Can't you just throw unstunnable creatures at him?
Unfortunately, there's not that many of them.
Yeah.
Back in 3.5, like undead were unstunnable pretty much. I mean, a lot of constructs were unstunnable, but now pretty much anything can be. I mean, I think there are still creatures that are actually immune to it, but they're much rarer than they used to be.
So we'll see those in the next adventure, right, Al?
Oh, I always keep my eyes open.
Are we running into a bunch of unchattables?
Well, there are the legendary monsters that have the legendary resistance where you can they automatically make a save. So
Right.
that is one way around it, but I mean you can't throw a legendary monster in like every encounter. So
Well, you can, but I'm not gonna. I had a hard
if you
enough time.
were say tried to kill Chad's character, you might want to do that.
I would
Well,
have to put
for a while,
several of them against him.
wall.
You can't equip them with Wand of Anti-Chad.
The Chad is too powerful. You can't resist the Chad.
Oh, I'm not reading that. Excuse
Okay,
me.
is this am I up next?
Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
I am the player in the group least likely to play a human. Who am I?
Oh, hold on.
Oh, 2 marks
Okay,
and
so
2
we're split.
L's.
No, I had Mark on my 50-50 list. So
Well, I'll take the ones that showed up for me. I love dwarves, so I don't always play a dwarf, but frequently I will play dwarves.
Yeah, what is it about dwarves that attracts you, Al?
I'm a natural grudge holder,
and you like to drink?
and I like to drink, and I'm a grudge holder. So there you go.
Perfect dwarf. Do
You know,
like
there are
Russ
lots of
Allen?
other races that hold grudges, Al. You don't necessarily
But
have to
none-
Could be a grumpy elf.
But none as deep and irascible as the dwarf.
I can optimize a grudge character for you if you want. See what we come up with.
So
there
Russell,
is I think there is like an Oath of Vengeance paladin.
oh yeah.
Right.
Play an Oath of Vengeance dwarf paladin. There you go.
We just came up with Al's next character. Getting all sorts of good stuff out of this session.
I really don't like you.
All right.
Maybe you could do a wizard who just throws around curses at everyone.
I think for me it's just that I'm human, so I want to play something that's not me. Now, so whatever that is, I tend to go towards like smaller like goblins, halflings, gnomes, but I really I'm fine playing anything that's not a vanilla human. I that being said, I truly recognize the awesomeness that is the variant human in 5e D&D because it is truly awesome. And I certainly encourage other people to play variant humans, but usually I'll go for something different. And like I said, it's just to get into the idea of playing something different than you, and that's really all of it.
Well, I have a question for Mark. You always seem to play the underdog races too. Is there anything to that? Like the goblins, the kobolds, like you said, the little thieves or the tricksters.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why I go that route. I mean, I really like elves. I like to play elves a lot. I think because I like high dexterity characters, and that's probably why I like the little guys too, because they're kind of quick and maneuverable and stuff like that.
I can't ever remember you playing a straight up fighter type. It's always if it was a fighter, it would be a mixed class.
I think my Eldritch Knight Shadowthorn was probably the closest that I've ever gotten to a straight up fighter.
Yeah.
And even he was, an Eldritch Knight and had, magic and all that. So yeah, maybe one day. Maybe I do really like the Battle Master. So maybe one day I'll play.
Well, actually, that would be a good idea for a campaign, the anti-campaign, where we all play a character that's completely against type.
Guess I'd play a mage.
A cleric that heals, God. Or maybe a fighter who actually fights.
Actually, Chad, in your case, a bard, because
Oh,
they are the most
That's
well-rounded.
true, right? The generalist.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be fun to see you play a bard.
But they can specialize pretty good now, though, with 5th edition. So. Bard of Valor? No.
This is Chad Al's crossed bear for 30 years. So
All right. Mark, you're up.
Right. I prefer to focus on ranged attacks over melee attacks. Who am I?
no.
Now, of
Right.
course,
Well, I guess
so we mostly have Mike.
Yeah,
And
Mike
again,
held
with
up.
the exception of the Ultimate Warrior, who is a grapple dude.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. I guess I didn't think of myself so much as a ranged type, but I do stay out of combat and at least of late been doing a lot of magic. I guess I'd been thinking of Mark because of all the magic, but you're right. I don't really get, even though, so my latest character is a sorcerer, for those who don't know. You can specialize in certain kinds of melee attacks, which are powerful, but I almost never do because I like to stay in the middle of the group.
He's actually a
One
warlock.
deals do
Yeah,
the hard
warlock
work
for-
while I reap the benefits. So yeah, I guess guilty as charged, but didn't think of myself that way.
Do
Joke's on
second
me.
minions count as a ranged attack? Because you do that too. The count counts. What was his name? The monk.
Oh
Oh,
God.
manservant Hecubus.
Oh yeah, that's right. Well, I just threw him.
Yeah, why attack at all when you can sacrifice a minion?
Ranged attack. Yeah.
He's a minion. I mean, that's what he's there for, you know.
Best beat ever.
Yeah, it's true that I do like magic, but I really like melee fighters. I like especially like rogues, so I like to get in and do the sneak attack. But I've been playing a paladin recently that I really enjoy doing the smites. So yeah, that's been a lot of fun. Yeah, but you can't beat a magic missile either.
All
All right,
right,
so Al.
last question. I have an unhealthy fixation on 4th edition D&D. Who am I?
We all say it out.
Yes, because I have an unhealthy fixation on 4th edition.
So we couldn't have an episode of this show and not talk about Al's 4th edition problem, especially because maybe we should just go ahead and do our bonus question.
Sure.
That ties in, Al.
All right, so which character is my favorite is our bonus question.
All right. So Al, do you want to start?
Yes, okay, so I'll start with Trag the Toad. Now, Trag was a thief built on the Thug kit from the Complete Thief. We were still using kits in Ravenloft, and he was a Ravenloft PC. And I really got into being evil. Trag was a murder hobo in the purest sense. And he killed a whole bunch of people and had a great time doing it. And he had started off as the henchman of the Count von Count, and then later abandoned the Count because the Count was incompetent. Which again, Trag was probably being a little harsh, but still. And Trag met an ignominious death. It was at the end of one of the classic Ravenloft modules, and there were 4 doors being guarded by 4 different skeletons. And it turns out that one was a regular skeleton. Another was a skeletal creature of slightly more power, and then there was a skeletal creature of slightly more power, and then there was a Death Knight. And Trag picked the Death Knight, who slew him, and he did not get to escape the module. And that was the end of Trag. That said, I did bring Trag back later on as an NPC, so I could not let him die. Thus, he has returned in a slightly different build. I made him a barbarian this time.
All right, my favorite character is probably the most recent one is the monk. His name is Puck. It was over at Mark's house, or his mom's house, that we made it over Christmas. So his original name was Wang Chung, but Al wouldn't let me do that. And he's part of the part of the Chang gang. And then of course with the backstory of he left the monastery to get some groceries, and comes back, that's all destroyed by evil monks. But I think the most fun I'm having kind of with him is just I've never played a monk, and I didn't really read up too much on the monk, so it's kind of fun. Of course, the levels are slowing down, but it's kind of fun figuring out what to do with them and all that stuff. I mean, most of it is I run up and punch them, but I do like them. I think my most favorite character, like role-playing character-wise, is probably way back in Star Wars when we played. I had a Han Solo thing, and he had Quantum Leapfrog, spaceship, and R2 and androids. And I think the only combat I did was bet money on a gambling thing and used all my force points to win. So.
My favorite character, probably one of the more short-lived ones, would have been Zoltan. And I can't even remember what his class was, but
he was a cleric.
It was another cleric who deliberately didn't heal.
Yeah, he was the one that inspired the story in our last game about Al and Chad buying a bunch of healing potions.
Right. Okay, so Zoltan was part of a long weekend that we did at Mark's place, and I don't know, I just kind of went just for the complete bombastic, like, guy, narcissist who just believes his own BS. And that's also where manservant Hecubus, for those who ever watch Kids in the Hall, I liked that kind of just toady henchman who, just regardless of what sleazy things the boss did, was just totally oblivious to it and was, just utterly devoted. So I kind of played off of that, and I even kind of hijacked the party, because every time I referred to us, I kept referring to us as Team Zoltan, until everyone just kind of just fell into it, and I became the nominal party leader, even though under no circumstances should I have ever been leading anyone. Just so many narcissistic role-playing opportunities and just sleazy things to do that it was just too much fun to play. So that was probably not my best character, but probably the most fun to play.
All right, and then my favorite character is Snoggles, and Snoggles is a goblin who was first created for a campaign that we briefly mentioned in our last episode. We used the variant rules in 2nd edition D&D to create custom class characters. And this is Snoggles is a perfect example of my psychosis, right? It's like I created this character, and I picked like all the things that I liked from various other classes, right? I picked 2-weapon fighting from the ranger, and I picked like healing magic from the cleric, and sneaking and sneak attack, and like thief skills from the thief, and then various wizard spells, illusion magic, and evocation, and I think some alteration magic, and I like put it all in this one character who could basically do anything that I wanted him to do. And most of the time that was just like antagonizing enemies from a distance. But But he was so much fun to play, and I have I've revived him for our current campaign that Al is running in Greyhawk, and he is instead of being the everything Omni class, he is a straightforward, well, I guess more straightforward anyway, rogue cleric. He is my holy ninja, and I've really been enjoying kind of learning the I guess the advantages of both of those classes by playing Snoggles, and it's been a lot of fun. But he's definitely like one of those characters that will always be special to me, just because I've played him for so long, and through so many adventures and campaigns, and he always like managed to do something cool. Maybe not, he was maybe never the best at anything, but he always did something noteworthy. So that's my guy.
Probably should have figured out how to end this.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, thanks, Chad. So this has been a very special edition of Dungeons and Decisions. We hope that, that maybe you will journey on similar paths of self-reflection and think about the things that you like to do when you're playing this game, and the things that you find the most fun when you're sitting at the table with your friends, and that the next character that you create is your favorite character, and one that brings you happy memories every time that you think about them. We will see you next time. Have a great evening or morning, whatever the case may be, and take care of yourselves and each other.
Thanks for listening.
Bye-bye.
Bye.